and there's no reason behind it. And that's why even Sean Carroll says, stop asking for the reason that things are. There's no reason, because reason is in relation to mind. So let's just play let's go into the atheistic world right now. So there's no mind or meaning behind anything. It's just activity.
Mind.
And listen, any meaning or anything is just constructs of the human mind, and any words that we ultimately speak are just sound waves in a void. So let's just pretend that that's true, and let's just not say anything, because anything we say is just ultimately meaningless noise in a void.
Is that autonomous or theonomous?
That stems from theonomous. This is built upon the ground of theonomy.
That stems from theology, your theology, because your theology says if you're not singing about the Lord, you're just making a clanging noise, right?
Here's the thing: even if we're an atheist, though, and we're using autonomous reasoning, so it doesn't matter whether you use theonomous or autonomous in this matter. There are logical conclusions or deductions from one's worldview, which the atheist cannot account for, because they don't even know how to account for how language and comprehensibility or intelligibility even come about. They just say, well, it's a mystery. So, but any way you want to split it, this is the deductive conclusion of atheism. And that ultimately all this that we're doing right now, ultimately, it's just noise, dude. If atheism is true, everything we're saying right now is ultimately noise with no meaning, no purpose behind it. It's just noise. And if anything, humans they play pretend. But even the idea of play pretend is fundamentally just a meaningless construct that we pretended had meaning.
Could you tell me the difference between noise and ultimate noise?
Ultimately. You know what I mean by ultimately?
I honestly don't.
Well,
I couldn't tell somebody the difference.
Look up the definition then, dude. Here's the thing: when atheists tend to try to play these games with me, you know what I say? Break out a dictionary, bro. It's interesting that that atheists, when they have a conversation with anybody, they know what meanings mean. But whenever they talk to a theist, they suddenly don't know what words mean.
Yep.
Look, if I use the word ultimate, I mean it's the best example of
theology.
On my call with
I think ultimate means the best example of something, or the last instance of something.
Yeah, because Bach, you can't give an example.
Let's open the dictionary.
Noise.
Well, let me open the dictionary.
Yeah, we'll go there. Yeah, Bach.
Well, I told you what I think the word means, and what I think the word means doesn't help me figure out the difference between noise
talking about
and ultimate
teleology. Even if I disagree with his use of the word ultimate, he's talking about telos, and I think you guys know that.
Yeah, you guys do know that. You guys are just playing dumb.
But at
even if we're talking about teleology, clearly I'm speaking with purpose. So what's the difference between me speaking with purpose and ultimate
telos?
No, no. What you're doing is if atheism is true, you're making believe that purpose is really exists, right?
Oh, my purposes do, quite obviously. How else would you explain my behavior?
Just in your brain. It's just it's this little bubble.
Yeah, it exists for me. How else would you explain my behavior?
Yeah, so you have no real value.
Obviously, the devil still has reason to exist, right? So your theology isn't even correct. There is meaning without God.
When you make God make believe, you make everything else a make believe, because everything that exists only is made believe in the mind of the human. So the moment God becomes make believe, the moment you say God is make believe, you made everything make believe. Because all that there really would be, is meaningless matter doing whatever it does for no reason.
Do I not have motives?
It's what children do. Children play, right? I actually found value in make believe, so you can shit on it all you want.
Well,
it's a pretty awesome phenomenon. Yeah, we can make believe in reality, right? And it's wonderful. Your theology is dog shit and poisonous.
My make believe is the front of the world. Why is it? This is the front of the world.
Your make believe is colonialism.
You have to go to Sunday school as a kid.
Which definition are you using, Bach?
Hold on. Why is it you say on one side of your mouth that our theology is dog shit? That's perfectly fine if you want to sit there. Then why do you sit there and appeal to the Christian stance on inheritance and demand the fruits of your father's labor? You are bitter about an unrealized evil. You desire the fruits of your father's death.
Stop framing it that way. Stop framing it that way.
He has an obligation to the woman he inherited.
Wealth was inherited wealth, right? And I was also.
Is your grandfather alive?
No. He got it during my grandfather's time. That's the tradition. So just shut your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's not the tradition of the church.
Yes, it is. All right. Yeah, you're supposed to set up contracts, right? And you're not. You definitely don't.
Where does it say that?
In Deuteronomy 24. Look at Jacob and Esau. What do you think they were doing? Getting a contract? Getting a blessing?
That's not a contract.
Well, guess what? A blessing isn't going to hold up in the court of law.
That's right. You're not getting anything your way anyway.
So is it a theological matter or is it a legal matter? Which one was it?
Let's hear it, Lizzie. Let's try about it.
It's both, right?
right?
Is it just me or does Wise Ape sound like Mr. Batman? I feel like he sounds a lot like Mr. Batman.
He's like the atheist, Mr. Batman.
Why yeah, I have two alter egos doing the bit.
Was it more than $20?
Yeah, so if we want to play, hang on, if we want to go with like ultimate, if we go with the fourth definition, basic or fundamental. So what I'm saying, if the atheist is right, fundamentally, what is meaning ontologically, like in relation to? Well, it would just be, so you have humans arise like a bubble within the meaningless matter in motion, and a bubble arises, and then we make mental constructs around this activity. And so fundamentally, what would meaning and purpose and all these things be in an atheistic world? Well, it would just be a passing mental construct of a human mind. And when the bubble pops, it's over, it just goes back into the sea of meaninglessness. Yeah. Now, what are these things fundamentally if God exists, or ultimately? Well, there is a being that is unchanging, eternal, that is eternally good, eternally all-knowing, wise, and understanding, and all meaning and things derive from this eternal, unchanging being. So what I do, it has meaning in relation to that which is eternal. It's not just some passing little bubble that pops. And for example, this would also mean that, like, when we die, the bubble merely doesn't pop, but we go on, we give an account for the things that we have done. There's an everlasting value we see in the virtues that we have done. There is an everlasting shame to be had in the evil things that were done in relation to what, though? In relation to that being that is eternal and unchanging, right?
So quick response, number one. Their ultimate in relation to their ultimate in relation to the unchanging eternal nature of God. Your atheist account is like perfectly compatible with us having this conversation here. There's no problem there. 2, eternity, not valuable at all. It doesn't matter what happens next in eternity. It only matters what happens next for us.
That's your autonomous opinion. That's your autonomous opinion.
No, that's impossible. That's impossible to deny.
No, that's just based on your opinion, bro.
In heaven, it doesn't matter what happens next. It only matters what happens next to us.
How are you predicating that? Do you have access to like the mind of God to like predicate that?
God doesn't exist.
You're throwing shit and hope it sticks. That's usually what atheists do.
No, the first thing I said was that your account of atheism is perfectly compatible with us having this conversation, which is true.
Yeah, it's true.
How do you know that? You don't even know that, bro.
Why wouldn't I know that? We're having this conversation right now, and there's no contradiction.
But you can't actually say that atheism can account for language or us to even have a conversation.
Why would atheism itself have to account for language? You mean account for language?
So you can just predicate. So you can just use logic without accounting for it. You can use reason without accounting for it. So when we ask you, well, how does your worldview account for it? You don't have to. Okay.
Well,
I mean, if you think you don't have to, go ahead. But you have no ground on which you stand. So
it's obviously true.
So you're like this is why Van Til said you're like the man who he uses a ladder to get to the roof, and then when he's on the roof, he throws away the ladder, and you say, "How'd you get there?" I don't know, and I don't have to know.
So one, it's obviously true that we can do that. 2,
we have a stronger position than just atheism. Like the only reason you call us atheists is because of theism, right? We got so much more than that, but we have all and we have all the reality, right?
Atheists have a turd. Listen, atheists. Listen. Atheist. Hang on.
Even if atheism were true on any philosophical grounds, if I were to accept that atheism were true, I still would not want to be an atheist ultimately because of the way people are so insufferable as atheists. So even if all of the arguments you guys make are true, just the pure behavior alone is reason enough to not be.
I know. I wish I could behave like Discord apologists.
That's what atheist does. Atheism has a turd, right? And they're always offering you a turd, and then they polish the turd, and they're like, "Look, it's a polished turd." And I'm like, "It's still a turd."
The only turd part of atheism is theism, right? We shouldn't define ourselves as atheists. The theism is the problem.
So let me ask the atheists in here, what does atheism have to offer me? Why should I be an atheist?
So it's not atheism itself that's the thing that offers anything. It's an account of like the secular world that's important. Without eternity.
Have to offer you.
Good point.
The point.
I'm waiting. Okay, so what's to offer me? I'm trying to see what atheism offers me.
The point.
Why should I become an atheist? Why should I be an atheist?
You have to
it offers you tech.
Now, see, my problem with this whole like language thing is that I've heard numerous atheists make the argument, and maybe it's not a monolith, maybe you guys have your own systems, but language is merely a convention under your system. It's a matter of pure convenience. We all agree what words mean. That's why they have meaning. That's why they have utility, because we've somehow managed to come to some form of consensus and standardize meaning. But it's not universal. There's no grounding for it. It's relative, just like morality, just like so many other elements of the atheist worldview.
What are you saying? Not universal. If language is universal, then I would be able to understand Chinese people. Like, what are you even talking about?
That's not what I mean by universal. I don't mean that it's consistent or that there's no variations amongst language.
Then what do you mean by universal?
Language is universal, though. But
I'm
so
saying that
He's
it's
saying
grounded.
language itself, not languages. There's a difference in what
Yeah.
he's
So
saying.
what does the word universal mean here?
Universal, it means that it's grounded, it's transcendental, it's grounded in the mind of God. It's not dependent on human minds or creaturely minds.
Sorry, if all English speakers disappeared tomorrow, the English language would still exist.
The
God
English
speaks
language
English.
as an example, but mathematics is a language.
yeah,
So, okay, so we're not talking about natural languages then.
mathematics is a
So
language.
you're not talking about it discernible, but you keep imagining that you keep switching the definition of my use of the word language
Sorry, I didn't know you
over
were talking
to
about formal
individual
languages.
examples of languages.
So you're not talking about
language is a
natural
form of
language.
mathematics, actually.
I've already been trying to explain it, but you're so freaking gung-ho to jump into the discussion. I told you that it's transcendental and that it's grounded in the mind of God apart from creaturely minds, and then you immediately jumped onto an individual particular example of a language.
Okay,
It's like if my cat died, cat as a form doesn't die. Cat still exists. Cat as a transcendental set
Philosophy
category
101.
still exists.
So when you say I don't know why you're using the word transcendental, because it sounds like you're talking about transcendent objects,
As a
like
category.
platonic objects.
Yes, they're
Okay, so
categories,
not
dude.
transcendental.
I'm employing it in a
Cool right
philosophical sense, just like Primo said.
Yeah, transcendental is the wrong word there. You're talking about a transcendent object.
Well, this is why most mathematicians are mathematical Platonists. Like, for example, even Ed Witten said, if there is a multiverse, he said calculus is it's in every universe, and it's a language. And like aliens may use different symbols, like Chinese and American or English use different symbols, but the language is there. So our languages are symbols around universal languages, and so this is why most mathematicians are mathematical Platonists, because, like they say again, even in a multiverse, calculus would exist. It is a language that is multi-universal, if there be multi-universes. So we have to ask who is it and what is it that installs within nature mathematical languages and comprehensibility and intelligibility? The atheist just says, I don't know, but anything but God.
Yet why do you need one?
Well, then give me an explanation. Because here's the thing: there's something called the principle of sufficient reason in reason, right?
False.
And so, what is your reason for it? So you don't have one? Okay, there you go. So you say, why do we need a reason?
He's just not interested
Okay,
in
you're
giving an
unreasonable.
account.
The PSR is false.
So he wants to be
He's just not
unreasonable.
interested in giving
So-
an account.
No.
Yeah, so stay unreasonable. Stay unreasonable.
No, the PSR is false. As in the PSR, the claim that
Since
every
when?
entity-
Listen, science is based on the PSR.
No,
But
it's
now the PSR that has driven all of science
No,
is
it's
now meaningless when the atheist can't answer it.
No, it's not.
That's unreasonable, sir.
That's just false.
Well,
What do you think the
that's-
PSR is
false
false?
does not make
Why
it
do we
false.
have to give an account for it?
The
And
PSR
that
is just false.
proves-
Like, what even do you think it is?
Just saying that it's false is not false.
Sure, I'll tell you exactly why it's false.
What
An
does it
acceptance
say? Define the PSR.
that every fact, event, and entity has a reason why it is thus and not otherwise.
Everything that is contingent requires a reason or an explanation.
No, a necessary being is its own sufficient condition.
Listen, Leibniz defined it. He's the one that defined the principle of sufficient reason. Says all contingent things require a reason or an explanation. This is what drives science. This is what
you're
drives
confusing
the
what Leibniz
understanding
said.
of all things. No, I'm not. So
God is
this
his own
what,
reason.
No, okay, but this is what drives all of science. But when it comes to
False.
certain things in the universe that, according to most scientists, are contingent, like intelligibility and comprehensibility, the universe itself, when we ask what is the reason for it, suddenly when the atheist can't answer, it's not important anymore.
Is God his own reason, Bach? Does God have his own existence within himself?
Yep. But he's
Okay,
not
so
contingent.
God is
he's
the
not
answer.
contingent. So stick to what we were talking about. We're not talking about that which is uncontingent. We're talking about that which is contingent. And now the consensus in science is that the universe, with its intelligibility and things like that, had a beginning. Space, time, and matter, in which intelligibility play has a beginning.
That's great. You
So
don't need
where
a
did it
PSR
come
for that.
from? Where's the explanation and the reason for which it came? Oh,
I thought
suddenly
you wanted
don't
me to
have
say
to
why the
give that.
PSR is wrong, but you just keep talking.
Okay, well, go.
Okay, so the PSR says that every fact, event, being has a reason why it is thus and not otherwise. So X explains Y is explained by Z, and so on and so on and so on.
In
If
relation
you
to
have an
contingencies.
infinite regress, the infinite regress isn't itself explained, so that's an exception to the PSR. To end the infinite regress, you have one of two choices.
You're straw man, dude. This is why I made it very clear, as Leibniz did, in relation to contingent things. Obviously, there must be something ultimate
which is its own reason.
Okay, yes, but then it's non-contingent. So I've already made clear from the beginning we're talking about contingency. So what you're trying to do is straw man something that nobody was talking about.
I'm not straw man.
Nor was Leibniz talking about. So you're saying something. No, you're saying something is nonsense, but you're straw manning the thing you're making nonsense.
I didn't explain why it was nonsense.
It does apply but how does that apply in relation to contingencies?
What X is explained by Y because X is contingent.
Okay, PSR applies to contingencies. How is that nonsense?
It also applies to God. He just happens to be his own condition. God is his own reason for existing.
Or he wouldn't be God. Do you understand?
He is his own reason for existing. That's why he's necessary. That's what aseity means, Bach.
Flashback. Moments ago.
There must be something ultimate
which is its own reason.
Okay, yes, but then it's non-contingent. So
back to the shitfest.
Therefore, even as Leibniz said, therefore the PSR cannot apply to that which is non-contingent. Okay, so you're arguing
God is his own reason. That's why he's ase. That's why he's necessary.
Exactly, and that's why the PSR doesn't apply to him.
No, that's why he's the end point of the PSR.
No, that's why the PSR doesn't apply to him.
That's why he makes the PSR exceptionless and an absolute principle, because he is his own reason and he ends the infinite regress. That's the whole point of having a necessary being.
Yeah, the PSR applies to contingent things. So show me
it applies
again.
To God too.
Show me how the PSR applying to contingencies is nonsense. I'm waiting.
That's why
kind of
he ends
weasel out of this, dude. You're trying to like confuse and weasel out of it, but it ain't working.
No, you're just wrong about Leibniz. You don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not wrong about Leibniz.
You absolutely are.
Do you want me to post I'll post stuff in the side chat so everybody can watch, and they'll say, "Wow, Bach was right. Discernible doesn't know what the hell he's talking about." Would you like that?
It applies to contingent things, dude. But the point
is, but does he say it would apply to God? Does he say it would apply to God?
Has to be stopped by a necessary being.
Does he say it would apply to God? Would Leibniz say the PSR applies to God?
I'm pretty sure yes. But look, my question is, if the PSR doesn't apply to God,
then it wouldn't be God, bro.
Then the PSR is not exceptionless when it comes to entities.
You just don't know what you're talking about.
Then there's an exception to the PSR. Is there an exception to the PSR?
Yeah, so...
Is there an exception to the PSR? You can say yes or no to that.
Listen, so I'm going to provide you with sources in the side chat.
Shut the hell up for a minute.
So I'm going to just shut.
So you're not going to say yes or no, are you? You're
no, I'm not. I'm not answering your straw man. So here's.
It's not a straw man. It's a question. A straw man can't be a question. What I'm going to post inside chat for
everybody that has an IQ over 50.
Is there an exception or not?
Can see that Leibniz said that the PSR does not apply to that which would be a sadist like God, but it only applies to that which is contingent. So the PSR by definition is only in relation to contingencies. Now he said the PSR is nonsense. No, but this guy says that Leibniz's PSR is nonsense. He never showed how that was the case, that the PSR in relation to contingencies is nonsense. But here's the thing, because he can't explain contingent things and he runs into a dead end, then suddenly he thinks that that PSR is nonsense. These atheists are stupid.
Existence within yourself. That's what it
means.
All
you're doing is over-talking me, dude. You're not going to win by over-talking me. You're dumb and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I'm going to provide sources in the side chat to show that you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Is the PSR exceptionless? Yes or no? Is it exceptionless?
Just shut the hell up.
Is it exceptionless? Does anybody want to answer that? Is the PSR exceptionless or not? Anybody? Bueller?
I've already defined what the PSR is, dude. Listen, this guy's an idiot, dude. He's trying to be a sophist. He's trying to sound smart. Here's what the PSR is. Let me explain the PSR to you guys, okay?
Is it exceptionless?
Sufficient reason. And all the guy that invented it said was all
free speech
contingent require a reason or an explanation.
Anybody?
Okay? Now, once you get to something that is non-contingent, it doesn't have a reason or explanation. Therefore, the principle of sufficient reason does not apply to something as say it is.
The quoting will continue until morale improves.
There must be something ultimate
which is its own reason.
Okay, yes, but then it's non-contingent. So
apologies for the interruption.
God is necessary because he's his own reason.
In relation to contingent things, and this is what has driven science since the beginning of science: is learning how contingent things come into being. What is the cause
why
of
does
them?
God exist?
The cause of them. Now, when it finally comes down to the beginning of the universe and like
because he's
intelligibility and
necessary.
comprehensibility, language, mathematical
Is the
principles
PSR
and properties,
exceptionless?
then suddenly the PSR is nonsense to this guy.
Is the PSR
No, it's not
exceptionless?
nonsense. Because you can't answer it doesn't mean it's not nonsense.
Is God his own reason?
That theism can answer the principle of sufficient reason and say that the reason nature is infused with intelligibility is there's an intelligent being prior to it that brings us into being. Okay, so theism satisfies the principle of sufficient reason. Atheism just says we don't know. It's a brute fact, but a brute fact is a mute fact. It is no reason, and therefore theism is more reasonable than atheism. And because atheism can't answer these questions,
the PSR
so we don't have to.
Anybody?
The PSR is nonsense.
Is God his own reason for existing? Is the PSR exceptionless?
He's self-subsisting.
Yeah, there you go. He's self-subsisting, right? And that's why he exists.
And I don't think. Oh, hold on a minute. And I don't think.
But that's why he exists, Primo. That's why he exists. That's the reason.
The principle of sufficient. Bro, hold on. I don't think that the principle of sufficient reason applies to axiomatic truths.
Did you just tell me why God exists?
And we just told him. I already told him that.
Did you just tell me why God exists, Primo?
The fact that he is self-subsisting, yes.
Yeah, does that explain why he exists? Ah, fuck. So the PSR does apply to him.
No, but I'm not just, according to Leibniz himself, you dumbass.
I'm just saying as a general principle, from what I know, is that the principle of sufficient reason generally doesn't apply to axiomatic truths.
But you just told me that God has a reason for existing.
Though. That's the funny thing is Leibniz himself mentioned God in relation.
What is even the problem with this? It is insane to deny this. This is like normal basic stuff. It's insane to deny this because Bach didn't want me to finish my criticism of the PSR, so he started spurging about this one point.
You said the PSR is bullshit.
Wait, hold on a minute. I want to ask you, though. Are you saying that the PSR does apply to axioms?
Well, I mean, I really have no idea how to talk about axioms. I don't. That's not a word I use.
Okay, well, I mean, like essential truths, then.
I mean, I wouldn't use those. I wouldn't use that
I feel like that's something you should be familiar with. So if you don't know that, then why are you asking about God?
You said the PSR is BS and never explained how because you interrupted me on the first point and never let me get back to it. Don't blame me. Jeez.
Well, now I just wanted to ask you if you knew that, but okay.
So Primo, you're asking me a bunch of metaphysical questions that I don't think about and don't care about.
But that would apply whether you're talking about God or not. That would apply to any axiomatic truths. So if you're not sure about how to answer that question, then I'm not sure why you're asking about God, because God for a Christian is the ultimate truth. But if the PSR does not apply,
he's an entity.
But he wants a straw man the PSR, dude.
If the PSR does not, in principle, apply to axiomatic truths, then
God's an entity, not an axiom. Or rather, I am talking about God as an entity, not an axiom.
Yeah, but God is like the ultimate source of reality, the ultimate truth. That's what we're talking about. So that would apply in the same way.
You've already said God exists because he's self-subsisting.
I'm saying if.
That's a reason for God to exist. I know
you don't accept God, but I'm saying if
that's the explanation of why God exists. He's self-subsistent.
Right,
that's
he's
just saying
self-subsisting.
God has a reason to exist.
But you are using the PSR to say that you were trying to use the PSR to criticize that view of God, right? Am I understanding you right?
No. Look, Primo, I don't know if you noticed what happened there, but Bach asked me to explain why the PSR is false. I said one sentence, and then we spent the last 20 minutes shit-flinging at each other.
All right, take it back then.
Yeah, you never explained how the PSR is bullshit in relation to contingencies.
Gee, Bach,
as defined by Leibniz.
Why is that, Bach? Why do you think? Why do you think I never got there?
Why is it bullshit? Why is it bullshit? Why is the PSR bullshit?
Yeah, so an exceptionalist PSR is bullshit because it requires a being that is its own reason. There's two ways you can have an
strawman it again.
There's two ways you can have an exceptionalist PSR. One, you deny relations between particulars, which is in conflict with experience. Or two, you can have a being which is its own reason, and the only way you get that is the ontological argument. The ontological argument doesn't work, so there's no exceptionalist PSR.
Okay, so are you done strawmanning Leibniz, who already addressed the issue that his PSR is not in relation to anything Asatus, but only contingent. So from the get-go, I only spoke about what the PSR actually applies to contingencies. So when it comes to the universe itself, it is believed for the most part to be contingent, and therefore even like calculus and intelligibility or whatever it is that nature has within it is contingent. And so when atheists can't answer how these things come about, they say they don't have to. Well, why don't you
now you're
have
not talking
to
me anymore. Now
why don't you have to?
So can I ask
Yeah,
you a
I am
question?
talking to you.
Primo said God is self-subsistent. Do you agree or do you disagree with that?
God is a sadist, yes.
Okay. And if God is a sadist, can he cease to exist?
No.
Why can't God cease to exist?
Ask him.
Ask him?
Yeah, I don't know.
You're saying
I
it's
don't
a
know the
mystery?
science of the divine.
Oh, fuck, it's a
Hang on, let me
mystery?
say a prayer and ask God, like, hey, God, can you cease to exist? I mean,
You
I
don't
think
know
he
why
can.
God can't cease to exist?
I've never asked him about it, to be honest. Do you know?
Wait, do you know
Can
he
you help
can't
me with
cease
that?
to exist?
Can you help me with that?
Well, I would say
if God is
the
revealing,
point
listen,
of
if
God
God is
not being able to
revealing,
cease to exist is that
if
he's
God is
self-subsistent.
revealing that he is eternal,
Self-subsistence
and that
is
and
the
he
answer
is
to that
unchanging,
question.
everlasting, we tend to just grant that he can't just like poof, there he's gone out of existence. Okay, I think we tend to just grant that if he's eternal and he's always been, that he can't cease to exist. Okay, but maybe we need to think about that a little more. I don't know. I don't really spend a lot of time asking God if he can like poof himself out of existence. Okay.
Oh shit. Okay, I'm shocked to hear you say that, Bach. To hear you contemplate the possibility of God ceasing to exist. I'm shocked.
I have no reason to entertain that, though. If God has revealed that he is eternal and he has always been and always will be, I don't sit around saying, hey, God, could you poof yourself out of existence? It's just not something that we think about, dude. And to me, it's a waste of time to think about
you
that.
can say it's a bad question.
I would say it's probably not a possibility,
blowing my mind.
because I think it would probably entail some logical contradiction if we were to grant that.
So you think it might entail a logical contradiction if God were to cease to exist?
Yeah, it probably does. Yeah,
and if it did entail a logical contradiction, it would be because God is logically necessary.
Listen.
Right?
Listen.
Am I right?
Hang on. Listen.
Am I right?
Listen, I understand my place in relation to God, okay? Here I am, I'm not even the size of an ant compared to his genius. So when it comes to like certain things about God, like I don't think that through my mere reasoning and logic I'm gonna understand the complex, like ingenious nature of God.
That's great. Okay.
All I can know about God is what he will reveal to me concerning himself. So he has revealed he is eternal. He has always been and always will be. So I have faith in that revealed truth. Okay. Now I could sit there and think of my vain reasoning if God could poof himself out of existence, but I think that would be vain and it's not an exercise I really care to think about.
But you brought up the possibility that God not existing would be a logical contradiction.
It could be.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And if it were a logical contradiction, that would mean God is logically necessary, right?
Yep.
Okay. But if there was no contradiction, then God would be logically contingent. Logically contingent just meaning his non-existence would not entail a contradiction.
If, in fact, okay, so we already agree you can have a valid argument, but it's not necessarily sound, right?
Well, can you say yes or no to what I just said? Like, I feel like you're about to start
preaching
for another 5 minutes.
Because here's the thing.
Question behind.
Listen, but I don't think it's possible, knowing the true state of affairs, that I could come up with some sound argument for the non-existence of God, is what I'm saying. Now, you may be able to come up with some argument that thinks that you can make an argument for the possibility of the non-existence of God, but I'd have no reason to believe that sound because of hidden variables.
It's not what I asked about. My question was, if there's no contradiction in God not existing, that just means God is logically contingent, as opposed to logically necessary.
If that were in fact sound.
Okay. You know what? I'm like super happy that we reached this point. I need a cigarette.
That's great. We're happy for you.
You ain't got to make it homo and say you need to smoke now.
You've really accomplished a lot.
They defeated God again.
Well, I feel like if you contemplate the discussion more, maybe you'll see.
See,
no, I won't see.
But I'm good.
I will see.
I'm gonna see what God reveals to me, dude, about these mysterious things. I can know nothing about anything unless God reveals it, dude.
So I just got Bach to the point of acknowledging, like,
Are you sure?
step one in seeing God as contingent. So I'm happy with that.
No, you didn't, bro.
What are you talking about?
He's not even listening. Bach didn't say that God is a contingent being. He didn't say that. He said
I know.
if.
That's not what I just said, Primo. That's not what I just said.
So did you say that you got Bach to say God is contingent?
No, that is not what I just said. I said step one in getting him to that.
I didn't hear the step one part.
Moments ago.
So I just got Bach to the point of acknowledging, like,
are you sure?
step one in seeing God as contingent.
Last interruption, I promise.
And I'm sure this is recorded.
I hope I said it. If I didn't, I'm embarrassed.
He's trying
I should have said step one.
to admit that God is a contingent being. He's just saying that it's going to take multiple steps to get there.
And I'm saying the only way I could even know if God is contingent is God would have to reveal it. God has not revealed he's contingent. He has revealed to me that he is everlasting from before all ages and throughout all ages, and he's everlasting. And so, but what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to play genius, and I'm not going to play Mr. Logician and come up with these intellectual arguments to defeat the everlasting nature of God because I'm smart. I got goosebumps, guys. I'm an atheist.
That's fine. Another day we'll cut through that cope and get to the point.
Cigarette.
Yeah, you think we will? But remember, I rely on theonomous
It's a
truth, not
necessary
autonomous
truth.
opinions.
It's my axiom. Don't worry.
He's got necessary truths. In his ignorance, which in arguments he can never show as sound, he's gonna prove the non-existence of God. It's such a joke, dude. This is why God is going to bring to nothing the wisdom of man.
He does it.